All right, everybody, good evening and welcome to August caucus meeting. Tonight is August the 6th. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you for everybody joining us remotely. Just a few announcements. We certainly are waiting and looking forward to welcoming all of our teachers back and our entire staff together on August 14th. Our first student day will be August the 21st. Hard to believe. And our kindergarten students this year will also operate on a split schedule, which will allow for the ease of transition for our first-time learners. Our staff and team has done an incredible job this year, including our principals and assistant principals for their preparation in scheduling interviews, our support staff for purchase orders, reports, all the files and filing that needs to occur with the Commonwealth, and all the filing that needs to occur on a regular basis to close out 23-24 and begin 24-25. Our registering of new students also continues, busing assignments, just the incredible amount of work that goes on. One of my favorite things is somebody says, well, what do you do in the summer? And sometimes it certainly can be a lot different busy than it is during the school year. We'd like to thank our teachers and paras also who made this summer come alive on campus when it comes to our extended school year program, our summer school, our elementary SOAR program, our STEM program, and our Early Birds program that's going on currently, as well as all of the athletic programs from some of our younger students that occur at camps to now our student athletes gearing up for the start of the official athletic season beginning, I believe it's next Monday, is the official first date. Thanks to our maintenance and custodial staff, they continue to work on the mulching, the polishing of floors, landscaping, replacement of tiles. Right now with the rising of humidity, making sure all the condensation lines are cleaned from our HVAC system, and continuing to find issues that occur and handle those issues like today with a small water line, I shouldn't say small, but a water line break that we discovered at the elementary school today. So they're working on repairing that currently. So really, at this point, we feel pretty good as a district. We feel like the only missing piece really is our faculty, our staff, and our awesome students coming back. I do want to provide a short update. I know it was from June, and there were some questions, I believe, on the Blue Line Safety. So Blue Line Safety, LLC, was approved by the Pennsylvania Commission of Crime and Delinquency, so they're on their website. Our day-to-day school safety officer will be Officer Dennis Wirt. He is National School Resource Officer trained, as well as Act 235, and we welcome their assistance throughout the school year. At this time, I'm going to turn it over and during announcements and welcome our new athletic director, who's going to talk a little bit about himself, the program, some goals and aims, and what he hopes to do in the next 30 to 60 days. And welcome Mr. Scott Markowitz, athletic director.
Thank you very much. All right, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. My family and I just moved in a week ago, so we're finally here in PA. So we're very, very settled already, and we're ready to go, and I can't even communicate how excited I am for this opportunity and to be here. So my name is Scott Markowitz. I graduated from ESU with a dual certification in health and phys ed. I gained my master's degree in educational leadership from Grand Canyon University online. From 2011 to 2014, I was a full-time health and PE teacher. It was a brand new charter school near the city in New Jersey that just opened up right when I graduated. It was a K-5. So I started there as a phys ed teacher. Years down, I became the district athletic director. I was also the district chair for all health and phys ed. That was 18 schools. So I would, observe, train, hold professional developments for all those teachers as well. I coached several varsity sports along the way, including cross country, soccer, and basketball. And education just runs in my family. So my father was a former teacher, professor, superintendent. My mother taught for over 30 years. My sister is currently teaching math. She's about to retire in a few years, but she's been there for a while. So education just kind of runs in our family. So this is something that, you know, I've always kind of thought of doing, and something I'm glad I'm here to do. So what are my expectations? The first two are, you know, those are both like 1A and 1B. I mean, they're both very, very important and top priority. Keep the kids safe. That's number one. We always want to keep our athletes safe at all times. We just had to clear the turf because of lightning coming, so we had to get our athletes off the field. Luckily, we got everybody off before the lightning was even close. But we are really trying to keep the kids safe. We're working on a emergency action plan for medical emergencies. I'll talk a little bit more about the handbook at the end, but that's going to be in our handbook. We're really diving into everything, every specific. You know, EMTs, what's the quickest route to get to every field and every place? So everything like that we're going to touch on in that handbook. And then student comes first, student athletes. That's the big thing here. They need to be working hard in the classroom at all times. It's a privilege to play a sport that you love, especially for a school like Susquenita and a program like Susquenita. So student is going to be really, really stressed. And my coaches have my first coaches meeting with the fall coaches on Thursday. That's something we're going to stress about. You know, they need to do their job in the classroom. Expectations clear for student athletes, coaches, fans. So in the handbook, you're going to see expectations for everybody. Support coaching staff, head coaches, fans, everybody, you know, spectators, every single thing we're going to have expectations for. And I think it's important that we make them clear. So I think having that handbook as a resource will help everybody get on the same page. I want to bring the community back together, put Susquenita back on the map. I know a lot of our programs, especially our ladies programs, are fantastic, and we've really done extremely well. I'm here to try and make every program better, and that's why I'm here. And you know, I got some family from West Perry, so you know, I hear it all the time. So you know, definitely want to turn it around for some of our programs. Very high expectations of myself. I like to get here, get to work right away. Now there is a Sheets down the road, so I have been finding opportunities to take a break and go to Sheets quick. But you know, this handbook was my number one priority. We are almost done. It's about a 15, actually with the medical emergencies, about a 25-page document. But we are about there. About one or two more sections. It's going to be handled on Friday, and we're going to put it on the website and put it out there for everybody to use as a resource. Win and be successful in doing it the right way. So we were very successful in my old school. We won a state tournament, won a county tournament, countless state tournament appearances. So we were very successful. And, you know, but we did it the right way. The kids were in the classroom. These were inner city kids that didn't have a lot of support at home. We gave them team tutors. My coaches stayed late. I stayed late, whatever we had to do. And our GPA when I left overall was a 3.2. And that is something that, I mean, nobody expected. But that kind of goes back to my first point with student athletes and really stressing the student part. I want to work harder than every other program. That's the key. You got to work hard. What I learned in my old position is that talent is not everything. If you work hard and there's a culture and everybody buys in, everything falls into place and you start to win, and then the community starts to really get involved, and then everything just works. So I really want to work harder. Coaches, I have high expectations for coaches, myself, players, fans, anybody involved in the program. We want to have high expectations of. And then, like I've been referencing, the athletic department handbook is going to be a very important document. And again, I think it just puts everything in perspective, everything clear, grade eligibility, how to contact coaches, you know, everything like that is going to be in there. So it will really put everybody on the same page. So what are my goals? So it was tough. All July I was living in New Jersey. So I was driving 2.5, 3 hours to work, and then I drive back to New Jersey twice a week. So we were trying to get as much done as possible. Now that I'm here, getting into a groove, getting a lot of work done. But I want to introduce myself, obviously, to all the coaches. I haven't met all the coaches yet. I finally had my first meeting on Thursday, but I really want to introduce myself to them, go over my expectations with them. I think it's important that they hear it from me and just know that I support them, and they got to understand that I'm here to support them and make them the best coach that they could be. fall coaching vacancies, so we're all good there. We really filled it. Right now we're looking at wrestling, but we're going to start getting into that. Once fall kicks off, we're really going to dive into wrestling and get a head coach for that program. The emergency action plan is actually being finalized right now by our full-time athletic trainer, Dawn, who has been fantastic, and she's full-time now. So she's really here, and she's accessible to the kids and making sure everybody's safe. Communicate program expectations. So I finally get to meet the parents or the families of fall sports on the 14th. They're going to come in. I'm going to have a presentation there. Also, Dawn, our trainer, is going to present as well about medical emergencies and things that we're going to do to make sure kids are safe. What are my long-term goals? Keep our student athletes safe. Never stop trying to improve safety for athletes. Always continue to try and work on safety. I mean, I went to Dr. Fox, said, can we get an ice machine down on the turf? Can we get it in the stadium? Can we get something there so we have it accessible to the kids? So I'm always looking for ways to kind of get the kids more safe, and because that's number one. Develop a strong winning culture across the board. I'm a competitor. I said it from the beginning. Ever since my first interview, I like to win. I want to work hard to win. But again, we want to do it the right way. Not coming in here and saying, all right, we got to win a state title in every sport. That's crazy. It's not going to happen. But I do want to continue to improve every single day and every single year with all of our programs across the board. Continue to build a strong connection with Susquenita and the community. I mean, I went to one baseball game when I was able to come here. I think it was senior day last year, and it was packed. And coming from a very small Group 1 charter school, that was cool to see, but it was also a little intimidating to see. But it's one of those things that really, is like, okay, if all these people are coming to support us, we got to figure out ways to connect with the community a little bit more, and I'm going to figure out ways to do that. I want to win championships, so PICO championships, especially with West Perry in the picture. That'd be nice to win some of those. District championships, state championships. I like to win, like I said. If you ever won a state title before, you get a nice fancy ring, and then you kind of get addicted to it. So now I just want to keep doing it, and I want to bring it here. I'm very, very excited to continue to improve these programs and to really make a change here. So that's my big thing. I didn't know if there was another one. I'm like, another one up there. And that's it for me. But I want to thank everybody for obviously letting me present tonight. And I am very accessible. Email me if you need anything. I'm pretty good with responding. The first couple weeks, not as good because I got about 400 emails right when I opened up my email account. But, definitely reach out to me if you need anything.
Well, thank you very much, and keep working through those emails. We appreciate that. Any questions for Scott or anything? We appreciate. We wanted him for you to get to meet him. We've talked a lot about Scott, and certainly to get a chance for you to meet him in person. All right. Well, welcome on board, and we look forward to the updates on a regular basis. So thank you. Going into our agenda items under resignations, leaves, transfers, and employment. This is a very busy time of the year, of course. And under personnel, we have some resignations. We have Teresa Bentley from the position of substitute custodian. Mr. Andrew J. Dorman, Mr. Dorman from the position of science teacher. He concluded his tenure at the conclusion of this school year. Nicole Stanley from the position of middle school mathematics teacher. Lynn Hetrick from the position of paraprofessional. Mrs. Jayla Hoover from the position of school nurse at the middle school. Caitlin Mensner, elementary school teacher. Megan Reddy was a substitute teacher for us and did an incredible job. Mrs. Abby Stefano from the position of special ed teacher. And Carrie Wilson, who was a position of instructional aide, but really did just a lot of different roles for us. We would like to thank all of these outstanding educators, professionals, and wish them the best as they transition to the next steps in their professional careers. Under employment, we look to seek your consideration for the following. Amanda Allen, elementary teacher. Stevie Joe Boone from Newport, Pennsylvania, for the assistant to the superintendent for finance and operations for a 5-year contract. I'm extremely excited for Mrs. Stevie Jo Boone to join us. She brings knowledge of Perry County, working for the county before, working at West Perry School District, and now currently at the West Shore School District, with her knowledge, her approach, and providing that consistency in our business office. I believe she'll be joining us on August 13th, so I look forward to welcoming her and having her meet you at the board meeting. And then from there, we certainly will see when her starting date will be. Leanne Clugston from Duncannon for the position of paraprofessional. Sarah Deitch as middle school math teacher. Sarah's done a great job for us in the past and has done a tremendous amount of substitute teaching and comes with some great experiences as well in the field of education. Kylie Elsasser, science teacher. Maria Mauser, she'll be our vocal music teacher. Kaylee McGugan, long-term substitute teacher for us at the elementary school. Ashton Moyer, math teacher. Kaylee Warner, elementary teacher. Callis Wexler will join us as a long-term substitute teacher at the middle school starting out. And Hannah Welter has started and has done an incredible job for us already as accounts receivable and taxes. And in her first day, we've, with the unfortunate passing of Peter Thompson as tax collector for Penn Township, our respects certainly to the Thompson family. We wanted to help out Penn Township and take on local collection of temporarily school taxes. Hannah quickly went in and did the course necessary to be a tax collector. Passed that relatively quickly, and now is our tax collector, taking on the taxes for Penn Township, as well as our responsibilities for the New Buffalo area as well. So that kind of, we do have some tenure items on here as well. We have congratulations to earning tenure in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Justina Blood, Blaine Leonard, and Devon Africa. We have some change in status for Andrea Fisher. She's going to transition from instructional aide and go back to school and be our special education teacher at the elementary school for learning support. Just super excited for her. She's done a tremendous job, and it's not unfamiliar territory. She's filled in many times for us in the learning support and has done a great job, and we thank Abby Stefano as well, because they've had some transition time over the summer to talk also, so thank you, Abby. And Sarah Predrick moving from Masters 45 Step 11 to Masters 60 Step 11. Voluntary transfer, Mrs. Andrea Harvath is transitioning from elementary teacher to middle school family consumer science teacher and has taken the required praxis tests and is excited, and we are excited for her knowledge and instructional approaches here at the middle school as well. We have some substitute professional staff, Amanda Bell, Nicole Hall, and Mr. Denny Shambaugh, as well as we continue to update our substitute list as we go. Successful 90-day completion for Mrs. Jennifer Jenkins, who's done an incredible job already at the high school, being one of our high school secretaries. Induction program teachers, as well as a litany of co-curriculars as we continue to work through our listing in mass amounts of co-curricular approvals at this time. Athletic coach and volunteer, we have Mr. Dylan Benowitz as an assistant coach. Dylan is one of our special education teachers starting this year and comes to us from Georgia. And we have some Big Brothers Big Sisters approval paid through the PCCD mental health grant for stipends for Mrs. Karen Mann, Sarah Pedrick, and Tammy Coulter for all of their work outside of the contractual time of planning, making sure, coordinating, and pairing and going through those applications, and also providing feedback and some educational opportunities for the students who want to become bigs in that very successful program. So that rounds out resignations, leaves, transfers, and employment. Are there any questions on those items for the agenda? All right, transitioning, we're going to go into agenda items now. So the bulk of the agenda was primarily approvals for hiring, but we do have some other areas here as well. We have our targeted school improvement comprehensive plan for the Susquenita High School. That, of course, is a Every Student Succeeds Act component when there's certain elements that we fall short on benchmarks as set forth by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania under the umbrella of the ESSA Act. There's certain plans that need to be designed and certain benchmarks and goals that need to be had as well. And we have that on the agenda tonight for a presentation and overview. We have a motion to approve the Student Code of Conduct for the 24-25 school year. Our principals will go over that this evening, just some slight changes to that and some clarification areas. And a motion to approve the Extracurricular Code of Conduct for the 24-25 school year. There are no changes being made or sought for that after we went through a massive review last school year. We have a motion to approve the bus driver list, as well as to add Courtney Group as an approved van driver. So we have that mass list of our bus drivers and van drivers that are incredible and very valuable. Act 80 days, we have 3 on the calendar. 1, to account for the hours lost for the split starts on August 21, 22, for splitting the calendar A through L on the 21st, L through Z on the 22nd, to allow for that staggered start. And then on the 23rd, all of our kindergarten learners will come together. 2 Act 80 days for parent-teacher conferences, and 1 for senior commencement practice and all of those processes for seniors on that day. First reading for policy 626.1, which is travel reimbursement, as well as 236.1 for threat assessments. We'll have updates from the Cumberland Perry Career and Technical Center, as well as from the Black Hawk Foundation, and dispositional items, as well as we continue to make sure that if it's broken, not used, and not touched, it needs to be removed, sold, discarded, or placed on municipal. As we know, within our school district, space and storage is a premium. So therefore, we need to make sure that we don't just keep things because it's easier to put it in a box and forget about it. It needs to be discarded if not used and or sold on municipal bid, which is public auction, to be able to recuperate any funds necessary to return back to the general fund budget. That is the agenda. Any questions on the agenda for August the 13th?
So when you have disposition items that are going to be on the agenda that don't say possible sale, does that mean they're being thrown out?
Yes. It means at that point, they're either broken, outdated, and there's no value behind them. So we don't see any value of even placing them on.
Even like the Promethean boards cannot be? Just the only reason I ask that is because somebody that I know that works in another school district are still putting them in their schools.
Yeah, I think the technology has changed so much in these boards that really, I think, to get somebody to come in and take them off of our hands without costing us is a benefit. Is that accurate?
Ours are very old, and they would not be usable. Other districts may be placing Promethean in theirs, but they're buying new.
Okay.
All right. That was agenda items. Let's go over to review of finances, and I'll continue with the fun. Taking a look, you have 2 handouts in front of you. The first thing I'm going to note that this is from the 23-24 school year. So we're wrapping up and closing out 23-24. New purchases from the approved budget for the 24-25 school year are being sought and being made. So in September's caucus meeting, we'll have a report starting with the 24-25 through this flexible report from the FIS system. The first is a 2-page report you'll see here, which is as of 6/30/2024. If I'm looking at it correctly, give me 1 second, I apologize. Yes, my apology. The first one is revenue being generated. You'll see different categories at which we were able to generate and able to receive. The total amount collected to date, it appears to be, is $34,924,576.45. At this point, we believe, short of a couple different elements, that maybe FAI and charging back to the 23-24 school year. FAI is how we get money from the state and certain subsidies. It may still be lingering. That may come in, that we may classify back to the 23-24. And again, these numbers for this budget and this presentation are not official until audited, and we continue to work with our auditor, who should be in the next couple of weeks to continue the work of that single point audit for the 23-24 school year. And here you will see, as well as the expense report, again, you're going to see categories that are like the one 879%. That was, again, when we look at those areas, how the classification of the particular budget for 23-24, when you look at the other objects being utilized in that large caveat or that large classification code, being broken down with the work of Mr. Holmes and Mrs. Wisen for the 24-25 school year, as that gets entered into the system for those categories. Overall, it looks like total amounts of expenses to date. Now, we still have a couple of outstandings that I want to be aware of, that I believe it's a South Central Trust. It's a payment to our healthcare, as well as some payments out to retirees, I believe. So there's a couple larger outliers that are still there that we're still going to have to pay relatively soon back to the 23-24 school year. But it appears unaudited number as of June 30th. July 30th, June 30th, excuse me, I'm sorry, is $35,887,726.38. So really the nexus between the two, doing the quick math, is close to about $1 million that we would be utilizing fund balance. Now, again, that's a there's still a couple of outliers financially, so I don't want to get too excited with that number. Because it is an unaudited number, and it is a number that we still have some outstandings that will get put back to the 23-24 school year. And I will do my best to try to answer any questions on the financials.
Do you anticipate any outstanding revenue coming in, or is all the revenue in?
A little bit. When I say a little bit, there could be some that's lingering. I anticipate a little bit of some state subsidy coming back through, but not substantial. A little bit of some subsidy, I think, that could come through.
And what's outstanding ENC? What is the ENC? In the 1, 2, third column on the yellow header?
In revenue or expenses?
Both of them.
Encumbered.
So what does that mean?
Encumbered means when you encumber something, it's just not taken off the books yet, so it's there and as a placeholder for that payment to come off, I believe.
Okay.
I think. I hope I'm right.
That's all right. No, you're good. It sounded
Thanks.
good to me.
Thank you.
You're bluffing.
Is it? Yeah. Any help here, guys? So feel free. So there's a couple
I guess,
things.
is that,
I remember.
are those things reflecting what's still outstanding? That 5,000, or is the numbers that you're talking about much bigger than that you said are still some outstanding things?
Anything that I mentioned has not been in the encumbered category.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, do you recall on?
What the
never mind.
projected deficit was?
Yeah, what was it projected to be?
I'll have to look back through. I'm sorry, I don't.
I don't remember either.
Based on my quick math of what our budgeted was to what our actual is, our budgeted was $1,958,000.
From last year? Not the one we
From
just did?
this, on, like, just doing the quick math on
Oh,
this report
oh,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
comparing the revenue to the expenses. It was, our budgeted deficit was $1,958,938.
Okay.
And what, based on these numbers, we're at $963,150.
Okay.
So it's about $1 million less.
Than what we thought.
Give
it
or
was
take
gonna be.
than what
Okay,
we thought.
thanks.
Again, we'll know more when it's officially audited, because again, I don't want to.
Yeah, but that, in all fairness, that, we don't get that number for a long time, right? Till the actual
Should
official
get that.
audit?
Hopefully, the goal is November.
Yeah,
Yes. The goal is November, and then by that point, we'll see what needed to be charged back to 23-24, such as any healthcare premiums that are outstanding, anything that also comes through, any revenue pieces that need to be charged back, all of those elements, absolutely. Lingering charter school payments that are coming in right now from deductions as things begin to stabilize, those come through as well. We see a lot of payments also from placements. Sometimes they'll also, as they do their single point audits, they'll say, hey, by the way, we noticed a student here was there for 6 days, you owe $30,000. Well, that doesn't seem like much, but when you get a couple, all those things begin to add up a little bit. So yeah, hopefully sooner than later we get that official number. Hopefully earlier this year. And I know the Tammy, Tricia, and Hannah, as well as Jeff Ammerman, our interim business manager from PASBO. He's been super phenomenal, so we're thankful that he comes in, and his knowledge is just unbelievable. So I've learned a lot from him just in the couple of days that I've had a chance of talking with him. So hopefully sooner we can get that in. So by September's caucus, though, we'll be also looking at the 24-25 budget reports as well, and you'll start seeing that usage as we looked at as we begin the procurement for the start of this school year with supplies and purchases. All right, I'm going to turn it over to our principals, who are going to go just do a brief overview of the Student Code of Conduct. And again, as I mentioned, there's very little substantive major changes to the Student Code of Conduct for this school year. So they've worked and reviewed this. Our assistant principals have done a great job and spent tremendous amounts of time going over this as well.
Yeah, Christine, if you just want to scroll down, everything in red is the changes. So if you have questions about the red, most of it's the same as, we did a big overhaul last year and took care of everything pretty much. So we added in artificial intelligence, obviously, with plagiarism. So there's not much on that.
AI, the AI one.
And this is more stuff that Mr. Page and Mr. Funk see in the high school. We don't have much as of now in the middle.
There are certain times, certainly, when the utilization of the use of AI, whether it be as a starter to get the intent in research, all great. You want to be able to take some of that and to put some of your notes and utilizing AI to help quantify some of that. But it's the turning in of a particular essay, it's the turning in of a prompt, and pulling that and just turning it in without the utilization of one's own original thoughts and work is what necessarily, and again, it really goes down to what the expectations in the classroom of that particular prompt and what that particular assignment is. If I'm accurate in saying this just allows for, and it could even be eliminated because plagiarism is plagiarism is plagiarism. Collusion is collusion is collusion. And the idea is if it's not your intended work and it says original work, then it certainly needs to be your original work.
Yeah, I'm the grammar person was coming out of me. I'm just wondering if you need the word inappropriate use there, since you already have it underneath the title of academic honesty and plagiarism, right? Would you just say this also includes, but is not limited to, the use of artificial intelligence? That's my
That makes
thought.
sense
But
because if
you
it's going to
think
be appropriate use, it's going to already be
won't be
specified.
plagiarism,
Correct.
right? That's the only thing I was thinking of, but
Would it be if it's inappropriate? I would think stipulate you are not allowed to use, are allowed to use AI. So if you're saying in an assignment, you can use something, this would dignify that it's inappropriate for you to use it. There are times where it will be okay to use artificial intelligence.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. I was just saying that because it's under the caption of plagiarism, it's almost inferred that this is the inappropriate use of it because you're not you're claiming it as your own. But I understand what you're saying too. And I don't know, maybe that can be addressed, AI can be addressed somewhere else too.
There's going to
Where
be
it
a
can be
lot of
separate.
conversations moving forward as AI, as more information comes up, as we get more and more comfortable, students get more and more usage out of it. And I think for us, it's really talking to them and working about the productive uses of it. And I think businesses are having these same conversations about the appropriate uses of AI and when it can be used and when it can't be used. I think, again, it's going to continue, and there's a lot of really exciting things that can come along with it.
Right, and I just would want to make sure that it couldn't be read that it can't be used, right? And I do think if taking that inappropriate out, you could read it as it can't be used then. But, and I understand what you're saying, so, and maybe it's just the different wording altogether there.
Yeah, because I think also inappropriate is subjective. So what my inappropriate is different than maybe yours, so maybe
Yeah,
a different word.
I think the only reason inappropriate is being used here is when a student is passing it off as their own work, which is plagiarism, right? It's just another tool for plagiarism. That was the only reason why but I understand what everybody's saying, and did this, because of that addition there, is 252 then getting updated? Because it does say you have to review policy 252. Okay. Or maybe, how about, what if you wrote down, this includes but is not limited to the inappropriate use of artificial intelligence as a tool of plagiarism? And then you know it's clearly being addressed in this context. Something like that.
That general enough.
I believe it is.
Yeah, we didn't want to put them all there because when they sign for them, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, and get their permit, that they're signing all that. So it's kind of a reminder that they're on there. We're not going to list them all here for you, but you should probably read what you're signing before you sign it to ensure you know the expectations. I think is it district policy 223 that they can review online? Soon enough. Few more years. Yep.
So one of the things that we added at the beginning in the red there at the top was every situation, we have a level 1, 2, and 3, is really, there's a lot of factors that come into play. The age of the student, obviously, the grade of the student, any related disabilities that a student may have are all taken into consideration, as well as the frequency. Is this the student's first offense versus the 50th time that unfortunately Mr. Funk may have had to see that student. So a lot of different variables come into play there that we put into caveat as well. So it's not a cookie cutter, carved into stone, one size fits all approach. Now there are some that are board violation policies that are non-exceptions to the rule when it comes to that. And that is the Student Code of Conduct for the 24-25 school year. And the extracurricular, co-curricular Code of Conduct is available online. There are no changes to this at this particular point. We didn't see any need to change anything up. If there's any policy changes, that will be reflective as referenced throughout the policy, throughout this document here. It's, again, will be shared out, will be signed off by, or asked to be signed off during student re-enrollment and new student enrollment, that they sign off that they adhere to this particular,
Did Scott get to look over this as well? Did you get to look? Just 'cause I was curious, like, with you kind of coming in with fresh eyes on it, like, what did it, was it?
No, we discussed a lot of it, and a lot of it I think is really, really good stuff that I've used in the past as well. That relates to a lot of the code of conduct we have here. But I read over with Dr. Fox, we met, and looks good to me.
And obviously, as we go and are things that we need to, we make notes, and that way we can refresh as needed. And the handbook he's providing as a reference for student athletes and for coaches and for fans and for parents and guardians and family is going to reference back to the extracurricular, co-curricular Code of Conduct, very much like the family handbooks that you'll see that each building has, that are going to kind of be this, the broader, the student Code of Conducts, the extracurricular Code of Conducts, and then go into some of the procedures and regulations and just how do we contact a coach? When do we contact a coach? We have some regulations that are in place there. The best time, what to talk to a coach about, who talks to a coach, fan behavior and fan conduct. We have to talk to you 3 times. We're not talking to you after that 3rd time. You're going to be removed, and then have a meeting with the athletic director and myself and the high school principal. So those things are going to go into play as well during the course of that handbook. All right. Awesome. Now we're going to transition into targeted school improvement. When we look at targeted school improvement, it sounds very negative. And anytime you're on, it certainly has that feeling. But when there's negative, you turn it into an opportunity. And it really is an opportunity to set some goals and continue to work towards those elements and some of those short-term and long-term goals that we already had in place that we want to continue to get traction. Now it's just solidifying and memorializing those into more of a formal document that's required. So we're going to turn it over to Ms. Snyder, Mr. Funk, and Mrs. Bressi.
Yeah, thank you, because I know Craig and Deneen are going to take a little time to walk you through the presentation tonight. Last year, if you remember at this time, we also had a TSI presentation for the elementary school. So this is not new territory for us. We went into that heavy last year, and when we found out our designation at the high school, we actually spent, gosh, I think we started back in February, where we started to meet with our stakeholder team and really work probably 5 or 6 meetings at trying to get a lot of the needs assessment done, work through the process, take a look, and finally kind of culminate in these are the goals and the things that we want to focus on for this coming school year. So Mr. Funk, Ms. Bressi, if you guys want to.
Sorry, normally I don't need a microphone. But,
Thank you.
So as you said, the TSI plan is just a targeted support and improvement plan. And it is an early warning system, basically for those at-risk students groups. It signals us to let we know that we could be in future risk for going into more intensive supports or strategies. We've been designated as TSI support for students with disabilities in 2 different areas. The designation normally lasts 1 year, however, it can or usually lasts more than 1 year, excuse me. So this is something that we'll have to revisit next year as well. So what are TSI indicators we were dinged on, if you will, is achievement and growth for math and ELA combined. And this is measured through the Keystones. So it is the students with disabilities student group. We had achievement at 9.3%. It is below the statewide average. We are showing that currently our growth is at a negative 4.99. So obviously we have some work to do there. And then also it's our graduation rate. So they are a 4- and 5-year cohort combined. So we are at a 76.32. It's below the 83.34 cut score. However, it's not that far below.
Right.
So we can make some headway there.
In both areas, you can keep it there, Christine, that's fine. Both areas are targeted. It's the IEP disability subgroup, which are underperforming, and same with the graduation rate. It's specifically those 2 groups. Well, that group is why we're being identified.
And can I just say real quick, sorry, Craig and I are going to tag team here. Yeah, the math and ELA combined is measured by the Keystones. There is a very small, and I did verify this with the state, that there is a very small subset of our learning support population that even takes the Keystones. So it is really just a very, very small subset of our population that this measurement is affecting.
Thank you. So when you are on targeted school improvement, you have to do a whole analysis and needs assessment and develop 3 goals and action plans to address what we're going to do to better support the students with disabilities subgroup on the Keystones and the graduation rate. So that's what the team did this year, is we looked at those areas of need and went and developed 3 goals to start with. The first one, Keystones. We have been holding data meetings, but we're going to have a more defined Keystone data team meetings throughout the year. Is going to be our focus. To analyze the data, identify where teachers can make strategies as we go along, and that based with the action plan, the next step, Christine. We've already developed the whole calendar for the year of assessment and data team meetings. They'll be scheduled minimally quarterly as the whole team. Then we'll have sub-meetings with individual subject areas throughout the year. So that's the first goal and action step. The second one is going to focus on interventions from the special education teacher, working with the regular education professionals, and to come up with ideas to help those students achieve on the Keystones. So we're going to be re-implementing the classroom diagnostic tool, which is an assessment we used to give it many years ago. It sort of fell away, and now statewide is sort of making its way back. We're going to be giving that out 3 times a year. We're each already scheduled the first assessment, which will get the baseline for the students in that subject area, will be the first 2 weeks of school. From that baseline, using the curriculum that's in place and the data meetings, they'll give a second one, I think at the end of November, beginning of December, to see the progress. And that's where we want to identify, using these strategies, how the students are progressing. Then they'll give the CDT a 3rd time, usually in March. I don't have the dates in front of me, but they're already identified and will be shared with the teachers. So that's the second goal, and you can click over, Christine.
Craig, will that only be for the special education population or everybody?
Good
No,
question.
we're doing the
Yeah.
entire
Yep.
Keystone subject group. So Algebra 2, Biology, and English 2.
Okay.
All the classes will be taking the CDT test. It's a good benchmark. Even though there's a direct correlation to the Keystones, it's a good way to assess students making progress.
Okay.
As well as a good way to practice taking a test through the utilization of an iPad or a device, because moving forward, I think it's starting with the year 2025, somewhere in that range, that the Commonwealth is moving all Keystone testing and PSSA testing to device-based testing. So we're not going to, we're no longer going to have paper administration. We're going to be required to utilize
Absolutely, and I think we're
devices.
being told that that assessment is going to be changing as well to sort of mirror what's going to be coming for our students.
More drag and drop features,
Yes.
fill in the blank features, a little bit more.
We just haven't seen that yet.
Yep.
Do we have to request special accommodations for students, especially if we have students who have IEPs? And if we're saying they have learning disabilities, that, then do they provide that?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
There's
Yes.
actually a couple different ways. There is, the first way we do is through the IEP, through the accommodations that are made through the IEP. We make sure that we do categorize them and we communicate them, that we do need those special accommodations made. There's also another thing that we do called unique accommodations, where we fill out different forms, different reports, and send that through to the state, so that, because we do have students that have, maybe they use their iPhone as their glucose monitor, things like that. So those are those unique accommodations that we also file. So we will be filing them and getting the appropriate accommodations made through the state.
do they make those assessments? Like, I'm thinking of our kids, and maybe this isn't appropriate. Do they make those assessments for students who have visual impairment or hearing impairment? Like,
Yep.
they're accessible that way? That if,
Yes.
Yes and no.
No.
It's the exact same test that everybody takes with visual impairment. They give a large print book.
But would you say as far as the community, like a color discrepancy? Right, well, with the device, the one benefit of the device is that if you do have a visual impairment, you have the ability to blow it up yourselves. If you have a hearing impairment, oftentimes it will either provide closed captions or it can read it to you, things of that be allowable. So, and my understanding is, the conversation that I have had with them, is that if you do have someone that it's a coloring, like a color issue, they can actually change the color of the font to accommodate. That's what I'm being told.
It's good.
provide the accommodation.
Yep.
Agreed, definitely. Go ahead.
So this is the third goal, and what we're going to be doing is reviewing that data, not only the special education professionals, but also the school counselors. I also see getting the transition coordinator involved in this as well, so that we can put in those remediation efforts to increase our total graduation rate for the 24-25 school year. And this is just the action step. As I said, they are going to be doing quarterly checks on the graduation progress, so we can take a look and see what are the grades, where are they? Are they in jeopardy of, not passing a course that is a required graduation course? And what can we do to right that ship?
Yeah. And we will be required quarterly to report in our state tool all of our results. So that's really awesome as well, that we'll get to collect that data, reflect on it, take a look at it, and we will report that out to the state.
And we do have students too, as you know, that are extended, that go until they're 21 based
Yep.
on their IEP. So that also gives them that extra time to, to make those course selections. And this is just, we'll go over this very quickly. This is just our roadmap for planning. This is just where we are as far as Ms. Snyder said, we worked in the spring. We worked with our stakeholder committees. We gathered all that feedback. This summer, we finished the plan. Once it has been displayed or sent out, so we will be submitting it by September 1st. And then in the fall, we begin the implementation. We'll monitor throughout the school year, do a mid-year review on it, continue to gather, and then in the spring of 2025, we'll work again with the stakeholder committee to see where we are, and what tweaks we need to make to, going forward into the next year.
Yeah, and before we finish the presentation, I had also brought up that the elementary school had a TSI plan last year. We actually graduated and came off that plan. So it just shows you that, the work, those goals really, if we follow them, I think we have a really good shot at, overcoming this and getting off this action plan.
and certainly some good practices that you've implemented as these action steps that are good instructional decisions and approaches that can be used holistically across the board. And something that, again, that just are things that we want to do with those check and connect, and being able to have that smaller group, to be able to have that caring adult that can help kind of guide them towards the next steps and keep them engaged within the school district. So thank you very much for your work on this. Transitioning, we're going to now roll into curriculum overview as well as some testing data and AP test data.
Yeah.
So we've got some results, some raw data when we say that, because it's not officially finalized and been processed through under the Future Ready Index. But we're able to share some of that as preliminary, high-level preliminary data with you before we present it out to our teachers.
Absolutely. So curriculum testing updates we kind of put together in one presentation for you tonight, and the principals have graciously worked on some things to share regarding their building plans as well moving forward this year for student support. So in the realm of curriculum, the things that we have been working on, I know I've reported out several times to you all throughout last year, just about the way that we are taking our curriculum guide and our action plan, and we're sort of putting that into place. And we know that it's a lengthy process. The review process itself is a 6-year process, but then we also have some subjects that come up that you just don't have a choice, but you have to review at that moment because there are standards changes and things that are coming down from the Department of Education. So we try closely to stick to that review cycle, but again, we have to be flexible with the needs of the district. So just in reviewing a little bit of some of that summer work that took place just in the last couple of months, we were really able to make some progress with our math, middle school and high school. So I know Mr. Black's helped out as well, just since we started that process back in January. We've met several times with that curriculum team, and we're planning on continuing to meet as we start school in the fall. So I think we'll definitely be able to keep working on some of our courses, and of course bring in some more courses that we haven't had a chance to actually start working on yet. So we will definitely have some updates to share with you in the coming months. And at the elementary school, we continue to work on pacing guides. So that is going to be a huge undertaking this year as well, where we're looking at our elementary math curriculum. So again, we wanted to start with the teachers coming into the school year really having some firm pacing guides in place, where then we can work with our grade level teams to really work on that mapping through this year. Science, we continue to work, middle school and high school science, worked on 5th through 8th grade science and some science, high school science courses. And the elementary school, we've actually gotten really far with the science curriculum that we'll be happy to share with you very soon as well. Spanish, finalized Spanish 4 and 5 maps, so the work on those courses has taken place. Gosh, I think this is the second summer that we worked to finalize things. So we were finally able to get through those maps. And with ELA, the elementary school continued to work on those pacing guides that we're getting excited to roll out to teachers next week on the 14th. And for food and consumer science, the high school began revision work on several courses, and along with our loan business teacher at the high school, he's really kind of taken a deep dive into some of those courses and has started some of that work as well.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. Sometimes you'll bring in 5 teachers, sometimes you'll bring in 4 teachers. Sometimes some can't come just because of other situations, so it's trying to garner and collect their feedback as well. And sometimes it's a solo teacher, so providing that support and feedback still, and kind of continuing all these things in momentum, and continuing that momentum, because there's one thing that we know that's in a premium throughout the school year, at the end of the school year, and over the summer is time. Being able to provide and carve out that needed time to be in the right mindset and framework to be able to do this really important work. And it's an emotional work, because you know what needs to be cut, what needs to be kept, and what needs to be created in order to be ready for our students, not just in year 1, but 2, 3, and 4, have that vertical and horizontal alignment that all comes into play. So it's a beautiful thing of choreography for sure.
Yeah, I like that you call it emotional work, because I really feel like that sometimes is why it's a little lengthier than what we think it's going to be when we dive into the work. But it's really important to note that all of the work that we do on our curriculum maps is teacher-driven, driven by those teachers that are expert in their content areas. We do not pay for a company to create our curriculum maps. we work on them, and that causes also, we have to take time to review them after we implement them. So again, it's a really lengthy process, but I feel like you get a little bit more out of it when we have our own staff creating those things and implementing them. A little more buy-in as well. So we do have some goals, just that I have for the district as we move forward. We're just going to continue meeting with the curriculum groups throughout the year, and we've already started with elementary, like we're carving time on the calendar, but we couldn't do it without the help of the principals at the building. So that help has been amazing in the last year. And I just hope that we can continue that, because that's a hardship on them when they have to try to find coverage or a lack of substitutes, and just trying to pace, and really get that on the calendar, and commit to the work. So I'm gonna try to continue just to keep that communication going and to make sure we're able to keep those groups meeting throughout the school year. I'm going to continue to follow the curriculum cycle, but, again, as I said, we're going to have to update as we see fit. And providing those professional learning opportunities in relation to curriculum development and instruction. So a lot of times we are, told by the state, you must give, this type of professional learning session to your teachers. For example, structured literacy. That's something that is being written into law, and there's stuff coming out to the districts that we have to put into place. So again, we're going to do the best we can at it, and we actually have our own teachers creating that presentation, giving that to our staff. And again, I think it just gives a little more buy-in, because we're able to come back and talk about it and revisit it as well. And then also with the science standards changing that we have to have implemented in the 25-26 school year, that comes with a lot of professional learning as well, because it is a different way of instructing students. So those are things that we've already started, especially at the elementary level, and we're just going to continue to, to work towards getting that for our teachers. We need to provide time for teachers to create, design, and implement the things that we are asking them to do. So a big push in the last year has really been to look at what we're calling student-centered learning, okay? So we have project-based learning. We also have some things that we've been learning from Apple with challenge-based learning. So all of that kind of comes under that umbrella of student-centered learning. And I think it's really important, if we're going to ask our teachers to do these things, we have to give them time to create and design and implement. But as Dr. Fox said, it's just a juggling act of how to get them this time to do that. And really, I know the principals are going to mention it, but oh my gosh, so much hard work has gone in the last year just to try to make sure that the time that we have in our student schedules is being used to the best of our ability. And that includes working to refine that MTSS process at the elementary school, and the win time, or the what I need time, at the middle school. So there have been particulars that we've worked with grade levels on, and I know Mr. Hamilton, Mr. Black have spent a ton of time really trying to figure out how that schedule is going to work the best for our students. But really, again, it's just trying to get the time and implement it and see what's working and what's not. So that's, some hefty goals that we have for the year, but we will continue working through them. And I did want to bring up on the next slide, Dr. Fox and I have been talking, and we do, as we work through all this, curriculum, rewrites and getting things ready, we'd love to bring some things to the board to show you what we've been doing, and then of course go through that approval process. So I was, talking to Dr. Fox and trying to figure out the best way that we could do that, and we're hoping to bring some things to the September board meeting. But what I'd like to do is sort of create a board level overview in a Google Drive, because as you can imagine, to try to print all of these documents and bring them to you for review is very, very difficult. So that will be coming very, very soon for you to take a look at, and that's just really the hope as we finish up courses, as we move forward, that we can bring them to you for approval and get things going and implemented. And then the three that I have on that slide are just really what I think I'm going to be coming to you in September with. So I will get those things on the drive and share that information out with you and work with you just to make sure you're able to review what you need to.
Yep, so you'll probably get an email pretty soon that says you've been invited to participate in a shared folder, and that shared folder in there will have these. So any comments, they'll be view only, so any comments you certainly can provide to me, and we'll pass them along, or to Krista and myself directly, and then we'll take them back to make sure that if there's questions, et cetera, your feedback is valuable, as you are the board, and approval of curriculum is one of our joint responsibilities.
Sure. So kind of the next phase of our presentation is just, as Dr. Fox said, to take a look at preliminary PSSA data that we have released to us. We actually, I think today saw that there were some Keystone data, put into our dashboard, so we need to kind of process that a little bit and take a look. So we have the PSSA for you tonight, and what I was able to do was go into Linkit, which is our data tool, and sort of pull snapshots for you of 22-23 scores, what we have, and then also what just came out from 23-24 school year. So you're looking at grade levels across time, okay, not the same group of students, but what they're actually testing on curriculum-wise and, the standards for that assessment. So you're able to take a look there at how we have that broken down, and then I know the principals have some thoughts and things that they want to share as well. And we printed it out for you because I know it's really hard to kind of take a look at that as the slide is up on the screen. Yeah.
So is it fair to say that if I would be looking at like third grade ELA 22, 23, and I wanted to compare, then I could look at fourth grade ELA 23, 24 to have a comparison of that
Cohort.
cohort
Yep.
of students?
Yep.
Okay.
It would be a different assessment, different standards, different grade level, but of course, you'd have that same group that you're able to look at
Okay.
over time.
Okay.
So Mr. Hamilton, I don't know if you have any thoughts to share, but I did put up some slides for third grade ELA and math, and then fourth grade also tests with science in there as well, so.
One of the things I do want to state, and I've stated it, I think, tremendous amount, and I'll continue to, is, it is the Summer Olympics, right? And I enjoy so much watching the Summer Olympics. And you get excited. But the Summer Olympics is one performance. Yeah, granted, you might have prelims and you have others, semis to get in, but it's one performance. Does that mean you're the world record holder? No. Does that mean you might be the world's fastest person? No, not necessarily, because that doesn't mean that time, that day, made you the fastest person. But at that moment, you earned a gold medal. I think the PSSA test is very much like that too as well. It doesn't mean we're not achieving. At that moment in that snapshot was a performance measure. And if that's the only benchmark, well, then I think that's why when we look at the Future Ready Index, there's a lot of different performance measures that captures the entire picture, including attendance rate, including certifications, including post-secondary outcomes, all of those things that are trying to be captured. And I say trying because, again, it's data in, data out, and what that comes from. But at the same point, growth over time is what we value more and what we're going to continue to work at. Where did that student come in at, and where are they leaving at? And how do we continue to grow them? Are we there where we want to be? Absolutely not. Do we have work to do? 100%. And I'll take the team of teachers and the team of paraprofessionals and this team of principals any day to get us to where we need to be, because I feel very strongly about that. We just need to continue to improve solid instruction within the classroom. Yes, curriculum is that basis of it, but I'm going to take the chef, which is the teacher in that room, to provide those elements necessary to provide and bring the creativity out and to capture them. That's what we need to continue to do. With that said, it's very similar to what Mr. Hamilton's already going to say. There you are, sir.
Exactly. Words out of my mouth. Overall, there's a lot of numbers, a lot of colors, things to look at. I took a look at these the past couple days. Overall, I'm happy with where we stand. If you look across grade levels from third grade ELA to our fourth grade ELA, you're going to see an improvement in proficient and advanced. If you just see within our team of grade level teachers, just the screen you're looking at, third grade from 2013 or 2023 to 2024 school years, you're seeing improvement of proficiency advanced. Yes, a new crop of students, but also, as Dr. Fox said, improving. Teachers take a challenge, right, to improve their instruction, be getting more comfortable with the curriculum, getting comfortable implementing interventions, different things. So across the board, for the most part, you're going to see an improvement both within the grade level and from that third to fourth grade leap for ELA for both third and fourth grade. The one area that you're going to see that was a drop is our fourth grade math. And that was something that we really did anticipate. We had some unique staffing challenges that really hyper-focused within our fourth grade math department. where we
Yes.
had lapse of teachers out on leave. One of our teachers did leave mid-year, so we were filling holes as needed. So we recognized this, and that was one thing that we were addressing this year, where our fourth grade we had departmentalization. And so this year we're switching that so that those students that if their teacher is out on an extended leave and we're having difficulties obtaining substitutes, a long-term substitute, we took it upon ourselves to have so our students are self-contained and they're staying within that classroom, just like K1, 2, and 3. That you're with that teacher the entire year, and you may not miss math because of a teacher being out on extended leave, and trying to get creative with that. Another thing that we did for this coming year is we know that with that instruction there are lapses, so we went and thank you, well, hopefully next week, approving a long-term substitute for a teacher that we know in fourth grade that is going to be out on we have a couple teachers that we know are going to be out on long-term substitute opportunities, and having somebody ready to go, she's eager to learn, eager to be a part of the Susquenita community. So those are just some things that we did address, just personnel-wise, that we knew we're potentially going to come with this current group. But it was interesting just how a lot of those issues did focus on the math side of our fourth grade. Christine, you can go to. Does anybody have any questions about any of the numbers or?
I don't know. I'm not sure if you will know the answer to this or not, but like, if you just look at grade 3 ELA, and it shows that the raw score average is the same for both years, but yet the distribution of proficient and advanced is better. Like, do you know why that is? The raw score still shows a 21.
Because there's less students in the.
Yeah, since these reports are pulled out of Linkit, to do a complete data analysis, we'll have to wait and see when we get what that could be, the state average, could be eligible items. But it's really interesting, isn't it? Looking at the 2 years crossover, that they're almost
Yeah, I mean,
parallels to each other throughout.
unless it's a basis of how difficult the test was evaluated to be year to year. So let's just say after looking at the scores statewide, that they decide 22-23's test was harder. So even though our average stayed the same, where they did the cut scores for proficient and advanced may have been bigger.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Then maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I just tried to answer my own question.
No, it is fascinating.
Talk
Yeah.
about all those things, yeah.
There between the two.
So a lot of our supports for students, a lot of them are continuation things that we have been building on from last year, that continuation for this year. So these first couple days of in-service, we're planning some professional developments on curriculum resources, progress monitoring tools, interventions to use in the classroom. These are all to help kind of using data to help make those gains within the classroom, keeping kids within the classroom, and helping that tier 1 or that classroom instruction. With those tools and those progress monitoring and interventions, we're going to continue to use Acadians, iReady benchmarking data, other benchmarking tools to track progress throughout the year, as well as the utilization of our Title I team. And I addressed that a little bit further, I think, on my 5th point. We're also piloting a new math program this school year with updated curriculum, best teaching practices. We're entering the 2nd year of our new Title Math Intervention, new math program, to provide those supports to students. And I did see, especially for our 3rd grade, some increases in math scores from this year. And we're exploring different ways to expand our title services to reach more students throughout the year. And this is kind of working with our title team, looking at different scheduling options, more fluid groups. How can we reach more students, maybe having our title team push into the classroom more, really expanding that, because we've had it, traditionally, our title team works with maybe a group of students, a handful of those students throughout the year, and then reevaluate halfway through the year and then pick up another crop of students, right? We're trying to look at ways that we can expand those groups? Can we schedule differently, and what supports can we put in the classroom that the classroom teacher can provide to those students? And then our title team can work with not only those students on that tier 2 level that need some extra supports, but also those that need some more intensive help and freeing up their time and schedule to get that one-on-one time, that one-on-two time, those real targeted interventions. So we're trying to still explore that, what that would look scheduling-wise, and what supports we're going to provide in the classroom.
All right, so for the middle school, we'll kind of do it in 2 parts. So as you guys know, like 5th and 6th grade, it's kind of like an elementary school approach. 7th and 8th, you're starting to go to high school. So I'll start with 5th and 6th. So this year in 5th and 6th, being myself and Mr. Ward's 3rd year, we really put an emphasis on the PSSAs and how to motivate the students, right? So these kids, this is at the end of the school year, right? They're all done already. There's 3 days in a row, then 2 days in a row. So how do we motivate them when they don't really want to be motivated, right? So in 5th and 6th grade this year, and I'll get to why we didn't do it in 7th and how we're going to do it moving forward, each classroom teacher did a test taker of the day. So it wasn't who got the best score on the test, but as the teachers walked around, who was putting forth the most effort, right? Was there 4 kids that you thought tied, so you would pick those 4. And then we did at lunch, Miss Levan did a great job of this, they had to roll the little spinner wheel on the TV up there. All the kids were cheering, blah, 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 and they'd get a little prize, right? Because whoever's name popped up as Student of the Month. So we know the kids, I don't want to say don't take the test seriously, but it's a struggle. So how do we motivate them extrinsically when they're not really intrinsically motivated, right? It's real, and that's what we have to do, because we do the IXLs, like Craig said, he's doing the CDTs, Mark does the iReady, and the IXLs are showing we have growth everywhere, right? And we get these tests, and sometimes like, how comes it's not matching up? But as you look, 5th grade ELA, it's a growth from the previous year. If you want to go to math, Christine. I think 5th and 6th are good, except for 6th grade math we need to work on. That one's kind of similar. 6th grade ELA was, if you want to go back one more, Christine, ELA for 6th grade. Backwards one. That's forwards one. 6th grade ELA.
We have a lot of charts on this one.
6th grade ELA. You see there's growth there
got
as
it.
well. 6th grade math is the next one. I think that's the one where we showed a little bit of decline, so we'll have to dig into that and why. It wasn't like Mrs. Singley said, you see right there, the scale score is the exact same, 943 both years. Why? So we'll have to dig into the issues there. Obviously, we had more students this past year than we did this year. So.
Yeah, the interesting part about some of these reports, too, that we can dig and drill down is getting this information as a raw data a little earlier. We can drill down into some item analysis. Obviously, you're not going to be able to go in and see the actual item itself. That's confidentiality issue, but you can see the overarching. And when I say overarching is what is that area that's measured, and then what is the assessment anchor that's being measured as well. And then you can use that assessment anchor to look at and say, okay, where did we get to in our curriculum to make sure we spent time on this? From there, where is this in our progression? So we can make those adjustments and adapt accordingly.
As we move forward this coming year, so I'm going to have the 5th and 6th grade teachers, Ms. Levan and Mrs. Wilson, mainly work with the 7th grade teachers on what that incentive was and use that with 7th grade. So last year we were going to do it with 7th grade, and the teachers kind of think, well, they're going to high school, they won't like that. But now that the 6th graders last year got it, they're going to be our 7th graders next year. We'll feel like it's going to be like a cyclical thing where they'll actually be looking forward to it. Now you see ELA not showed improvement as well in 7th grade. 7th grade math, I believe, also a little bit of improvement, but also 6th and 7th grade, obviously. And that's what Chris has said. We're updating those maps and just trying to figure out where we're going and what we're hitting. And as you see there, the raw score is actually a point higher, so it's stuff we have to look into.
It'll be really interesting to look at the student scores, right, too, and see of those students who are basic, you get those who are right on the tween, right on the fence because of a point or 2 points. That becomes really strategic when we look at Keystone exams for that pathway. Okay, where is that student and how can we provide some remediation or supplemental instruction to get that student over that finish line so their pathway for graduation is being taken care of.
Right, and also, and Mr. Ward and myself are going to do a better job this year in 7th grade of getting time for them. We have 2 math teachers in 7th grade, and we have an ELA reading teacher, getting some common planning time for them to look at the IXL data and determine where they need to focus to help the kids. Like, so last year we started 5th and 6th, we're going to go 7th next year, this coming year, and hopefully 8th and have the ball rolling here in a couple years where everybody's kind of doing the same deep dive into the data and getting that same time to plan. Yes. So 8th grade math has been an issue for a number of years. That's something would have to be looked at. I know it's tough for those 8th graders too. They're taking the PSSAs, and most of them are taking the Keystones, and it's just like I'm test on top of test on top of test. So it's just figuring out, I guess, how to space it out and how to motivate them, right? They take 3 tests, right? Math, ELA, science, and then Keystone.
Some of them
So
take the
you're like,
Keystone for.
It's at the end of the school year.
Yep.
Literally, they could be testing for almost the whole month of May, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I think really looking at our instruction too, because we haven't had consistent teachers in those positions as well. So that's been a struggle that, that we've talked about and how to work with them and.
Do they still take the math PSSA if they take the Keystone
Yes.
Algebra?
Yeah, you have to by law. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. You take it in the trigger court.
And then
Yep,
there's
you take it in the trigger course.
And the 7th
Yep.
graders who did not pass this year, if they didn't pass algebra, they'll take it again in the winter.
Winter, yep.
We're gonna give them some remediation, because it's, past practice has been,
You
they
know-
wouldn't take it again until they got to the high school.
Come to think
But
of
you'd
it,
have
I
2 years
think-
without algebra 1, and you have to take it again. The odds of being successful probably go down.
I'm assuming you passed if you,
We didn't, I didn't look at the scores yet. Denise said
Yeah,
she
we
saw 'em. I
literally
couldn't
just
find 'em.
got them, I think, today, so,
I found
in
the
the
22, 23
dashboard,
was
yeah.
So unfortunately, it's one of those, we will not get the actual beautiful documents that come from the state that have the breakdown and the score reports that we send or,
Yeah, it's like
home.
fall until we get
We'll get
those.
those late. Yeah, we'll get those in the late fall. That way you'll be able to see those and have those. But yeah, it's not uncommon. So if you take Algebra 1 as a 7th grader, then you have to turn around and take the 7th grade test. It's night and day. You're looking at algebraic abstract concepts, and then you're taking
you're
7th grade math concepts, and it's
Did we ever
It's a
look
lot.
at that data? Like, do
3
you find that,
The 3 years I've been, they've done better on algebra 1 than they have on.
Yes.
PSSA.
Yes.
Yes.
Because they're taking that course, whereas the 7th grade standards, some kids, we have the 7th grade come in at a 5th grade level, so they're not ever, like, algebra 1, you're taking that, so it's fresh. You're
Yep.
not- so
Yeah,
we've seen that as,
there was a child close to my heart that I actually think had that exact same thing happen to him when he was in 7th grade, but I often wonder if it's a bit of like, they overthink the math because they're in this higher level algebra.
Right.
That when they go back to take this sort of,
you know, say
the-
basic. kind of-
yeah,
then
the
they haven't-
basic-
And they haven't
basic.
seen it in a while, though, too, so. it's,
yes, yeah,
It's like.
Difficult.
yeah, like, how do I divide a fraction?
Right,
What, yeah.
Similar with the SAT. Some of our top students who are already doing Cal 2, and are taking the SATs for the first time, we encourage them to go back and review basic algebra because
That's part of it.
so do we build that, knowing that, do we build that in at all for those kids, those students that are in Algebra 1? Like, to give them some of those just basic math refreshers?
That's the problem, is the
Right,
time.
I guess the
It's
question,
content.
saying
I guess
this,
the
but I'm-
question comes into play of, this is a metric,
Right.
the outcome of the student performance, and what the pathway of that student in grade 12 and what they're able to accomplish and do is much more important to me than this numerical number. That's one one measurement and tool. Boy, I'm really struggling. Yeah,
I
maybe
think
need to-
also, if you're gonna give up one for the other, the algebra keystone is a pathway to graduation.
Graduation, yeah.
This is not. So if I, you know,
But I
Absolutely.
always think there is a way to, like you said, to be able to, we always talk about, while we don't necessarily, there's only a limited amount of time, but how do we take concepts and infuse multiple interdisciplinary concepts into it? That's why we are really super excited about the Project Lead the Way. That takes engineering practices, science practices, math concepts, and applies all of those into that concept in that class. So it's not just in isolation. You've got to apply those concepts into real application, which is kind of that lab theory portion, when it comes into it. And we're actually doing that in the Algebra 1 class, applying the Project Lead the Way into those concepts. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think there's always an opportunity to be able to see what we can do to assist, but that test is, I don't want it to be the single thing that we just prepare for.
I think we're going to see, in terms of the Keystone, a bigger growth too, because the last 2 years we've been working with middle school and high school. So
Yes.
the Algebra 1 program that we've noticed in 7th
Yes.
grade and 8th grade didn't seem as rigorous as 9th grade when you're getting the high school credit. So that didn't make sense. We've got on the same page where they're doing the same stuff. It needs to be rigorous. If you're in 7th grade, you get a D, take it again in 8th grade. But it needs to be that rigor that you're going to see in high school, because it's same with Spanish 1. We're working on that.
Yep.
It needs to be high school level course. Even though you're in 7th grade or 8th grade, it still needs to be that high school level rigor to prepare you for when you get to geometry or algebra 2. So that's the main purpose of our meetings right now, just kind of getting that. And we'll meet with 4th grade and 5th grade and try to, there's
Yep.
gaps there that need to be bridged that were never, I don't want to say never, but haven't been addressed in a while, which I think will help out. And then another tough part is, like, we talk about time and how to manage it. So the kids that fail the Algebra 1, my goal, I shouldn't say fail, don't score proficient or advanced. The goal is to get them, we do an acceleration course with math. So they have a whole period of math every day, and every other marking period they go back to their math class, get some IXL data or stuff like that. But the goal is to get those kids that failed the acceleration marking period 2, so they could do some review of Algebra 1 concepts, but we don't get the scores until, so it's going to be like you're going to have to take the schedule and kind of mix and match and do that stuff. So, and then the supports to just kind of continue, and then what we've done in the past, and then advance it to 7th grade this coming year. So, and I think that the key too, I haven't looked at the PSAs because it's illegal to do so, but there's terminology in the PSSAs that really I don't think is commonly used in like our unit assessments. So we're trying to get the teachers to like evaluate what does that mean, not just solve. And so different terms like that. So when the kids see it, they're like, they don't go. So if they see a term that like I don't even know what that means, I'm not even going to answer this question. C looks good. So just kind of use that throughout. 5th and 6th grade last year did a weekly. 1 week they did a math. At the beginning of the week, on a Monday in acceleration, they give a math PSSA question. They have all week to work on it with their classmates to try to solve it. At the end of the week, they'd go over it. So kind of just getting them. We don't want to teach to the test, but we want to prepare them so they're ready for the test.
Yeah.
And kind of like Craig said, doing the IXLs and CDTs, that gives you it gives you test endurance, I want to say, right? Because some of the kids, they see that booklet, they're like,
Yeah.
oh boy, here we go, right? I'm going to be done in 10 minutes, but just trying to build that test endurance. And after the test, trying to tell teachers, hey, they just took a 2-3 hour test. We don't need to give homework now in math. We just need to, we don't want to watch movies, but hey, let's give them a little brain break, do something fun for them, and kind of give them some time to unwind. So it's tough. When I was at Central Dauphin, our scores, like there's a few schools here and there that do a great job. I wish I had like the magic potion they could give to me. But I think it's just keep at it and keep trying different strategies until you find something that works for your kids and your group of kids. And I feel for the kids taking, like 8th graders will take 9-10 days of testing in about a 2-3 week period if they have a Keystone course too. And I think next year, 2 years, 5th grade has to do science, right?
Yep.
So that'll add more to their plate.
Science will move from 4th to 5th soon. Yep.
So it's not like you're gonna be doing 4th, 5th.
Right,
No,
right. They're just moving the
Move
grade
everything to middle
level. Up to the middle school.
All right, I want to share, since Keystone data is not back yet or just was received, I want to share the advanced placement testing results. I know Dr. Jones had asked for this earlier, and as soon as we got it, we wanted to put it together. So you have a handout. We also have some slides up here. The handout you have has more data. I broke it down for the last 5 years, the data. But this spreadsheet that I have displayed up there, that is this year's results on how the students got, except for chemistry. They will
Yeah.
be released next week. So I broke it down to show you those are our AP tests and how many were enrolled in the course this year and how many took the AP exam. The goal is to get 3 or above, and then a lot of colleges historically have offered some form of credit if you score a 3 or above on that. There's starting to be fewer and fewer, and we've noticed that over the years. I also put a column at the end listing students who took the AP class for a college in the high school course, where they took the class, they paid the tuition through Harrisburg University or Lackawanna, same class, and earned the credits as opposed to paying the exam fee and hoping you scored a 3 or above. So I think the numbers are really interesting to see how many actually did. For like history, we had 16 kids take it. Spanish, we didn't have any take the AP exam because Spanish 4 is when the students earn the college credit through Lackawanna. And if you look at the next slide, yeah, there it is. I wanted to show you the numbers over the last 5 years of how many tests were taken each year. And if you see, if we go back to 2020, and before that, they were roughly 40, a few more, but they hovered right around 40 or so. And you see a decline, except for 2022, where there was 30, over the years of how many students are actually taking the AP tests. Even if they don't take the test, it's a college level course. It's a rigorous course, and it's a fabulous course to get students prepared for college. I have so many students call back and talk to Mrs. Ray, Ms. Falzerano, saying, your course was harder than my college level course.
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, we have had, so. But I put the asterisks in 2021, and that was the first year we offered college in the high school here. And we look at the numbers, they sort of decreased slowly after that of the number of AP tests. And I looked at this year, and we had 18 tests taken, but we had 32 college in the high school courses for the AP courses. So we're averaging over 50 students achieving for some sort of post-academic, post-high school credits. Questions?
So just college in the high school is through a partnership with a local college or university, at which time it's an approved curriculum by that university where the teacher is actually an adjunct faculty of that university, and they pay a discounted rate to take that class, passing all of the required content to earn credit. That credit or that transferability of that credit is up to the university or college that student is going to attend to see how that will transfer. AP is through College Board. It's a designated end of course exam that any student can actually take any AP exam if they so choose, regardless of if they took the preparation course or not. And they sit for that AP course. And that AP course has a fee associated with it during a time test. They get the results back, and it again is up to the college or university, correct me if I'm wrong, to determine if they accept what score range based upon the score that they obtained. And then there's also another element that a senior could do, or a junior depending on their schedule, which they apply for and take, which is dual enrollment, where they either physically go to the college or university or take online classes. And those dual enrollment, you're actually enrolled dually in both high school and that college or university.
That's correct, yes.
Well, maybe this isn't the appropriate time to bring it up, but just since we're in a kind of a caucus discussion thing, in terms of, so my own experience, I've been finding out with regard to college and the high school classes and the AP. So the AP test sometimes transfers for a different class than what the college in the high school class does. Like, so if you get that 4 or 5 at a university, it will transfer to a certain, so like say the chemistry class may be a higher level chemistry class if it's an AP exam, as opposed to taking it in college. In the high school, they might transfer it as a, like elective chemistry. But the other thing that I learned too more recently, just transferring my own child's credits, is the big question that was posed to us through the university that my daughter's looking to go to is the question should not be asked, if the credits will transfer to a university, because in most cases, a lot of our college and the high school classes will. The question should be, how do they transfer? Because sometimes they'll transfer as a credit, but they don't transfer as a cost savings per se, right? So in other words, you could get those credits to transfer. Say for instance, she took AP US History and transferred it as, it'll transfer over, but it may even count towards her graduation requirements. But because as a full-time student, you pay for 16 credits, regardless of whether you're transferring those credits in or not, you're not really seeing a cost savings. What it will end up doing is by the time you're a senior, you may only have to take 13 credits that semester because you've already met your college requirements, or you could take an elective that wouldn't be required for your graduation. So I think that's something.
Well, there's a different nuance to that. What you're saying is correct per se, but then we also have students who've taken, say, 12 credits, transferred in, they're still doing the tuition, as many credits as they want, but they're able to do maybe half of a semester earlier, so they're not having to go all 4 years. So it is a cost savings, and they're only paying for 3.5 years tuition as opposed to 4 years tuition.
Correct. Yeah, I think that the point I'm trying to make is that it's really important for a student to be aware that it may not result in a cost savings, number one, and number two, that they really need to know what that is with the college that they're going to, and ask that college how they will transfer, not if they will transfer. Because the odds are the answer to the if they will transfer will be a yes, but how they're going to transfer into the major they're selecting and the college that they're going to is really important. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of times kids don't know where they're going to college till they're seniors or even late junior year, and they're already making decisions on college and the high school. I feel heavy on my heart here that it's important that it's very clear to parents and students alike that this can be very college dependent, and it may not result in a cost savings. Like, it's a risk. It is a risk.
Yes,
in some
100%.
cases.
Because if being in the sophomore year or junior year, you might not be destined to know which university you want to take. 100%. Craig, yes, really, really well said as well. And I think you really did a great job of saying, and really what I'm hearing is being an advocate. When we look at our portrait of a graduate, being a strong communicator and being able to ask those questions to your advisor inside of that application process, when you're going and you're onboarding and going through your financial aid package, when you're going through that with your admissions counselor, to take a deep dive into your unofficial transcripts, to say, how will these apply? How will these courses apply? Here are my transcripts. Here are my transcripts from school. How will these be applied? Whether they're, yes, able to, for somebody like myself who only wanted to take X amount of credits because my afternoons were used for cross-country or track, I wanted that smaller amount of class schedule. I paid for 18, usually took 15. Something like that would be beneficial. Somebody who wants to take a major in finance, a minor in entrepreneurship, or a minor in accounting, you may want to take as many different classes that you can to focus on that minor, which becomes certain elements to be able to do that. That's becoming very popular too as well, right? A major and then a secondary minor, or two
And-
majors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but conversely, if you are taking
Or 3+1.
chemistry as your college and the high school, and then you decide to be a pharmacy major, that chemistry class isn't going to transfer into your major core classes. Like, right? And so that student may graduate with 125 credits when they only needed 120. The course transferred. It just didn't result in any reduction in the classes that they needed to take. And that's, I don't know how to, I just would like
So
to be able to
individually-
guard against it just being,
I mean, anything could result in a cost savings to an individual, or it could not result in a cost savings to
I
an
just want to make
individual.
sure we're being really clear with that.
And it
with
really
our
depends on the
students.
university, because we're talking, I think, some that you pay for 18 credits, whereas some schools you pay per credit.
Not if you're full-time. If you're full,
Yeah. Absolutely. There are some that you pay per credit, even if you're
really?
full-time.
Even if
Yeah.
you're full-time? Oh, yeah. Yeah, most of most of the colleges I've dealt with is that if you're above 12 credits and less than 18, you pay this much tuition per semester. But, okay. Well, anyway.
I don't know anything about digressing. I'm just teasing. Never, right? Speaking of digressing, I'm going to jump into some engineering proposal overviews. I believe it was June's caucus where we discussed a little bit further, May and June, we discussed further about going out, taking some time in the summer to meet with some full engineering firms to try to get pricing structure associated with a multi-phase proposals for engineering services. So I certainly spent some time and we want professional guidance from an independent engineering firm. And I say independent because a lot of times firms sometimes will be in the business of trying to sell you a multitude of different things, an array, to lead towards a project. We want an independent engineering firm that can look out for the best interests of the district, to take a deep dive into multi-phases that I'll kind of explain, that will help kind of begin that process of steering us in the direction, in our direction, as to what we want to do moving forward with, i.e., any needs associated with HVACR, any needs with buildings and building renovations that might need to occur. What's the life expectancy? Do we look good in terms of our current buildings? And if that's the case, then are there any changes we want to do or need to do within our current systems? Where would a new building, if possible, ever need to go, and how do we preserve that space? And then revisiting the possibility of where some spaces could be for solar and what that would look like. And if that's the case, how can we tap into some of the Solar for Schools funds that are out there currently right now through the Department of Economic Development? So what I did was engaged with regional engineering firms to ask them to provide a proposal of services for the following: mechanical, electrical and plumbing, telecommunications, fire safety with a comprehensive review. We wanted them to do a site evaluation of our district to review areas for long-term and future builds to preserve space in areas that may be used as a potential solar array, and then help to maximize what the output may be for that solar array. What would the generation outcome be? And yes, we don't want to sprinkle them in every area throughout our campus, but if we were to preserve a space, what would that space net us and yield us? If we own that array, how would that help to offset some of our costs? And then a building envelope review. When we look at building envelope, we look at the roofs, we look at the structure, the sides of the building, water protrusion, windows, the life of windows, some of those areas associated with that. So in terms of a proposal summary, I had the pleasure of reaching out to 5 regional firms. When I say regional, within the area, they can be national, they could even be international, but they have to have a footprint within our area to be able to be on site. Virtual meetings are great for initial, but being able to have boots on the ground and see, touch, feel, and walk through is essential. 3 were very responsive, and they provided proposals, and we spent hours doing tours together on the campus this summer. Fees for services varied. It was based on their scope of work. 2 were very similar, and 1 was did not have an associated cost except for square footage, but they said they would waive that if we did a project and use them for a project. My recommendation after going through an extensive review of these firms is one called Pannoni Engineering. It's a full-service engineering firm. I've had the luxury of meeting one of their regional vice presidents who came in. He also works he's the engineer of record at Duncannon Borough, so he's familiarized with our area as well. Their proposal included mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, as we had said. It's a full review at each school building, investigating the age, condition, repair, and replacement costs. A building envelope study that would include a full review of each building using what they call the Association for Learning Educational Point System, and a site review of current district spaces to determine areas for optimal future project build and zones and possible solar arrays. The next steps, I'm going to provide you a handout that includes all of their scope of work for you to review. The total cost of the comprehensive study was right about where I thought it would actually be. It's just $17,200. It also includes, it's a study for about $2,500, or maybe it's $2,200, I'll have to look, but includes a wetlands and watercourse identification and delineation study. So if they were to come and say, here's an overlay of where we believe a building could be, I think it's looking at the optimal space, because if that is a full wetland and we never did that study on that, it doesn't make any sense to preserve that space and use it, because it would have to be bought into a land bank or preserved or replaced. So those are the things that are really going to help us to determine future areas. My thought would be, if you agree with this consideration, to place it on August 13th's board for your consideration and approval, because the sooner, this is a multi-month study, getting them scheduled, getting them on, getting the other subs that work within Peroni to be able to be here and conduct all of their needed studies. Then we would periodically bring them with their reports to caucus to be able to showcase some of their timeline, presentation, et cetera. We would utilize the funds from the study from our capital reserve fund, but pay our capital reserve fund back from self-reimbursement from the arbitrage that we can collect from the loan proceeds that we have right now invested with the First National Bank and some CDs that are within the First National Bank. So I'll pass this out. These are the proposals here as well.
Could I just ask one thing?
Absolutely.
As far as the solar array idea, I think we've maybe kicked this around before, talking to other schools that have something set up and actually finding out how is it working out for them, what's the cost effectiveness for them. I just think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've done a lot of that work. There's several school districts: Carlisle School District, Cumberland Valley School District, Steelton High Spire, Greenwood. Certain schools do it differently. Now with the Inflation Reduction Act, coupled with the Solar for Schools Act, those two make it almost available to get a high percentage of return. I won't begin to try to quote what that percentage of return is. It could be upwards to 60%, even encroaching higher, depending. Again, the Solar for Schools Act, I need more information on. I haven't seen what that application looks like. I haven't seen really what that reimbursement is and who can access the funds and how much funds are available. I don't know that yet. I'm not going to pretend to know that. I'm going to rely on the experts who deal with this on a regular basis to help guide me.
But you, in your slide before this, it sounded like this engineering firm was only going to be looking at the site to see where you might place a solar array. Are they going into the whole?
I'll clarify that with them, but I want them to see, based on that site, and then based on what that is, what would a return in terms of electric? What would the electric watt?
The
usage.
kilowatt hours that we would earn,
Yes.
we gain from it?
Correct.
But they're not going to get into the whole thing that we went through before, where this is the cost and this is the savings, this is what we should see over 20 years.
No, not yet.
They're just looking at site.
Just site at this
location.
point. That would be a further study if we wanted them to do and help us with a full, what we would call request for proposals. So they would help write that full request for proposal if we went down that road.
But
Then they
right
would
now,
help.
so right now, all they're looking is, we're going to look at the ground that we own and say, here's a potential place for a building in the future. Here's potential
Yep.
place for you to put, if you decide to do a solar array, you could
Yep.
get X number of panels put
Yep.
here.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, yes, I know. Yes, because
It's
we've
been-
had these extensive
Yep.
studies done before, looking at that and all of those numbers. I was just asking if this firm was going to go that far, or are they only looking at the site review to determine where we would be able to put panels and,
No, they would develop solar yield calculations based on 2 potential solar sites with the intent to maximize yields based on the available footprint. So they'll be able to use some calculations based on the footprint to yield results. but not to the point of, this is what it's going to cost, this is the SREX, this is that whole calculation.
Right,
No,
so they're just
not yet.
basically gonna be telling us what they potentially could produce in kilowatt hours.
Correct.
We could look at our own, in that regard, we could say, okay, it's gonna generate 4 million kilowatt hours and we're using 5 million. We could just make that comparison.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm kind of looking for a direction, if you'd like me to place this on the board agenda for approval, or other questions that you may have.
Is the proposal, because every page on here has like extra fees on it. So is the proposal really legitimately 15 grand, or is it gonna be 45,000 by the time it's done? Because every page on here talks about overage fees, and this is what we get paid an hour.
Yeah, those are all of the, what I would call the extra à la carte, but no, the bottom line fee in pricing would actually, it's 14.5, but unfortunately forgot to add the 2,750 onto that. So it is closer to 17,200. So they forgot the optional task of the wetland and water course identification and delineation, and they put down as an optional. That is something I think is valuable to us, because why speculate where something would go if it's not an optimal, without doing that extra study. But no, those others are, if I got crazy and went in and said, I really want you to change this. I want more here, I want more there. And I don't believe that would be the case. I would try not to. I would try not to. And honestly, what I'm really looking for as well is a partner, an engineering firm where we could pick up the phone and say, is this worth us looking at? Can you take a look at this? Like an engineer on record that we could call and build a relationship with.
I don't have a problem with you putting it on the agenda. I feel like I would like to look at, I don't know how I would vote until I get to look at this. So I don't know how that answers your question. Do you just put it, put the motion on?
We can certainly put a
and-
placeholder in there
Yeah.
for sure. And, at that point, we can discuss openly for discussion ahead of time. And if there's any questions I can answer questions.
Well, and are we able to discuss any of this in executive session prior to the meeting, if we decided to not move forward with it?
I
Because
can
it's a contract?
clarify questions, but we can't discuss. No, it has to be in public.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you get any proposals from any of the other firms that I could look at, like, just to compare and,
Absolutely.
okay? Would
Yep.
you be able to share that? Okay.
There's one other one that gave a I think there was two. I could certainly send those. Sure. I'll send those out to everybody so you can see. I just know, certainly, I wanted to be respectful and mindful of the others and not necessarily using their names in public without a recommendation, just because I know it's a business that certainly sometimes, but there were three that were very responsive, all very similar to each other. I'm sorry?
You get one revision before it becomes extra fees
Yeah.
to their proposal.
Yep.
In each category or just one overall?
Well, the only thing they're really giving us an option to revise is the site feasibility assessment. Mechanical systems evaluation and the building envelope evaluation, they're just giving us
Correct.
the other one. They'll give us that, we get one revision to their sketch plan, and then
Yeah.
you're done.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's important to note, too, that upon approval, anything will go through legal to review as well, and this has not gone through that yet, just because there's no action being taken yet.
I understand we don't want to know about the classrooms that don't have lighting.
This will not go into an architectural design.
Okay.
Yep. This is looking at more of the HVAC systems, the rooftop units. When is their life expectancy at the high school over? When is the vertical heat pumps gone? When, I just made that up. When is the geothermal loop?
Sounded pretty smart.
Thanks. You know, even looking historically at as much data as we can provide them to take a look at it. What's the life expectancy of the geothermal system here at the elementary school? The system that we put in the application for to replace at the middle school. What does that look like? What's the quality of the piping? Certainly at the middle school, the quality of piping here. We know just by visual, oh, I think that's bad. Well, visual doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it might need cleaned up or rewrapped with different insulation. That's what I'm looking for, where I don't think, oh my goodness, this is all needs to be removed and replaced totally. What are they saying and what needs to be done now, what needs to be done in 5 years, and what needs to be done in 10 years?
Sounds good.
And just because we were talking about solar, in the reduction that we were seeing in electricity that was that significant over those months in the spring, are we still realizing that through here?
So I need to get in and get transferred from the former assistant superintendent for finance and operations to me, so I can
Okay.
get into that account. So from July into now, I have not seen that. I have not seen what our PP&L records look like.
Okay,
But prior to that, we're seeing that the shutdown into unoccupied mode has been preserving some of those high peaks and spikes. So the controls have been working the way that we want them to work. Now, we've had some high humid days and hot humidity.
Right.
That could lead itself into some slight peaks, but.
but I think it'd be more the year over year, like, right? you know,
Absolutely, and
that's
this will be a
what I'm more
baseline that
interested
we
in.
need to see coming into next to have that comparison. It is important to note our electric electric rates that we were under, our electric contract expires this December. So we'll be having some of those conversations, because regardless of if we went even solar as a slight reduction or some type of array to offset something, we're still going to need an agreement with an electric company for the best price available. And I don't want to just go to default rate.
Right,
I'd like
of
to
course,
see
right.
what's certainly there, whether that be a 1 year or a 2 year agreement that we look at. I think it'll really be determined on what is hedged out there and what the futures look like, what the economy looks like at that time.
Right.
Will determine a lot. There's pros and cons of a 1 to 2. Sometimes it's safer at that point to go 1 and see what happens, in my opinion. All right. I'll share that information out for the others. That will be strictly confidential information. Thank you. If you have questions on this, feel free to reach out. Then we can reply at all, and that way we can all see those and those responses. See you August the 13th, next Tuesday. Tomorrow we welcome our new teachers to the district here as we kick off the onset of new teacher induction program, which is a 2-year model. We're super excited to welcome them. Have them begin that process and start. It's time. Time to rock and roll. Thank you very much.